2019 NHL Draft prospect Kaapo Kakko from Finland has set a very impressive record playing over in Liga. I want to discuss what he's accomplished and could he surpass Jack Hughes and be drafted #1 overall this summer at the 2019 NHL Draft. There are some people who think that's the case. We'll discuss all that coming up next. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We review and discuss all 31 NHL teams as well as international hockey. So if you're a huge hockey fan, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. So as I mentioned today, I want to talk about the 2019 NHL Draft prospect, very impressive Finnish prospect here, Kaapo Kakko, who for the longest time this year has been ranked the second best prospect coming up in the 2019 NHL Draft. But there are some that believe that he may have finally surpassed Jack Hughes and might actually go #1 overall this summer in Vancouver at the NHL Draft. Most recently here, he set an incredibly impressive record playing over in Liga in Finland this year. He now holds the record for most goals by an under 18 age player playing in that league. It's an incredibly impressive feat. He now surpasses a record previously held by Alexander Barkov, now playing in the Florida Panthers. We all know what kind of player he's turned out to be. An absolute stud. He's a captain, plays the game very well, 200-foot player, and he's a tremendously gifted offensive player. Now let's take a look at some of the previous record holders and what exactly Kakko has accomplished here. As you can see on the screen, Kaapo Kakko has now scored 22 goals this year and now holds the record for most goals in the Liga for an under 18 age player. Previously held, as I said, by Alexander Barkov, who scored 21 goals back in 2012-2013 season. Now, of course, before that, we also had Joel Armia, who was a pretty strong player in his own right. Of course, he hasn't had quite the success at the NHL level that Barkov has. However, Armia scored 18 goals at the same age in the 2010-2011 season. And, of course, Winnipeg Jet star Patrik Laine also put up 17 goals in his under-age 18 season as well. So it goes to show you here how impressive this is. Kakko has certainly had an incredibly impressive performance in his season in Liga. And he's certainly outscored some very impressive former Finnish hockey players who now are having successful NHL careers. Really, ever since the World Junior Championship tournament, Kakko's stock has been rising even further. Of course, Finland won the gold medal, and Kakko played a huge role in that with his heroic goal to win the gold medal for Team Finland in the championship game. Really, ever since then, he's been on an incredible roll, scoring at a prolific rate here over in Liga in the last 12 to 15 games. So he's really picked up the game here. Now, of course, he's played some center ice this year. He's mostly known as a right winger, but he's attempting to play center as well. So it looks like at the NHL level, he could certainly go either way. At this point, though, Kakko, in my opinion, has been the most NHL-ready prospect for some time, even though when I've done some of the other NHL draft videos for the 2019, looking at all the different prospects, so far I've only had Jack Hughes ranked #1, but I've said on multiple occasions that even though I think longer term Jack Hughes had the most upside and could prove to be the best hockey player in the draft, I do think as of right now, Kaapo Kakko is the most NHL ready. I mean, he's a tremendously big guy, he's good size, he moves the puck real well, he's a tremendously gifted player, and I do think that he's more ready than Jack Hughes to step into the NHL if he was given the opportunity today, or even come this fall by the time the draft is completed and they've signed their entry-level contracts with whatever NHL teams are fortunate enough to be able to select them at the draft. Now, of course, Jack Hughes in his own right is a tremendously gifted hockey player. His skating is off the charts. His vision is tremendous. His passing. There's lots to like about Hughes' game, and he's certainly going to be in strong competition here for the #1 overall slot. There's no general consensus right now that Kakko has surpassed him, but he's certainly, by some people's opinion, including Sportsnet's Sam Cosentino, who watches the junior hockey players very, very closely. Sam Cosentino of Sportsnet is the first to officially rank Kakko ahead of Hughes on his draft rankings. I will link the article down below in the description. There's also a video attached to the article as well, where you can kind of watch his analysis and take a look at his draft rankings. But for the first time ever so far in March 2019, he does have Kakko ranked #1 and Jack Hughes ranked #2. Will many other so-called experts of the NHL draft prospects begin to think the same way as well and also put Kakko ahead? I do think it's a strong possibility. I know over the last number of months, Kakko's been slowly changing my mind. And certainly the way he's been playing lately, setting records over in Liga as a U18 player, certainly doing a lot to potentially change my mind here and maybe have him ranked #1 on my rankings here as well. Not only is it Kakko's goal scoring prowess, but it's his overall point production, including his assists, which is also setting impressive numbers here as well. Let's take a look at how he compares to some of the top other Finnish players to play in Liga during their drafts eligible season here, to see how he compares to some of these other top guys. As you can see, Kakko finishes with 37 points in 45 games, giving him a points per game number of 0.82, which is very impressive for a player his age playing in that league. 2018 draft selection, Jesperi Kotkaniemi finished with 29 points in 57 games, or only 0.51 points per game, so that is significantly higher. If you go back a few years before that, Winnipeg Jets sniper Patrik Laine put up 33 points in 46 games, setting him at a clip of 0.72 points per game. And even before that, Mikko Rantanen had 28 points in 56 games at exactly a half a point per game clip. So obviously Kakko is outperforming many of his other Finnish superstar players that have been drafted to the NHL and have certainly been having pretty solid careers, putting up tremendous results here. So you can't help but wonder just how high his ceiling will be once he reaches the NHL level and what kind of player he's going to be. I mean, he does draw some comparisons to Patrik Laine, but more so the type of player that he gets compared to a lot is a guy like a Jaromir Jagr or a Rick Nash. I mean, he's big, he can drive the net, he has tons of offensive abilities, but he also has some pretty good playmaking abilities as well. Like I said, he's mostly a winger, but he's been playing center as well, and he really looks like he's going to be an extremely dynamic player. Anybody who selects him, regardless if it's number 1 or number 2, is going to be incredibly lucky and have a big building block to build around their team here for the future as they become a much better team with Kakko on their roster. Like I said, a lot of this conversation kind of got started around the World Junior Championships. I mean, Jack Hughes didn't have a terrible tournament, but he was hurt and didn't get to shine at the tournament like many had hoped and expected to for Team USA, which ultimately ended in the Finnish team winning the championship and taking home the gold medal. It was a major showcase for Kakko. He played incredibly well and, obviously ended up with the heroics there, scoring the big goal at the end of the tournament. So from that point forward, in my opinion, he's been gaining even more momentum. And like I said, and now, according to some like Cosentino, is now ranked ahead of Jack Hughes. So give me your opinions down below in the comment section. Do you think this impressive record by Kakko here is going to be a big building block for him to overtake Jack Hughes and be the number 1 overall draft selection at the 2019 NHL Draft this summer in Vancouver? And of course, if you're newer to the channel here as well, I often do a lot of mock drafts and mock draft simulations as we're approaching the NHL Draft. I did a mock draft simulation for the draft lottery not too long ago. We'll be doing a few more of those coming up here soon. And of course, don't forget the NHL Draft lottery is going to be held a little bit earlier this year. The NHL recently announced it's actually going to be held on April the 9th. It's going to be its own event on its own. There's not going to be any other hockey going on that night. Of course, the NHL regular season will already be complete. The playoffs begin, I believe it's the next night. So there's no hockey going on that night. They're creating this into its own event. So obviously, before in the past, we've seen it done like during an intermission, for example, during the playoff action later into the first round usually. So they're doing it much sooner, so we won't have to wait long at all after the regular season comes to a close to find out the draft order selection for the teams that are going to be in the draft lottery, which obviously is your non-playoff teams, and then obviously they'll fill out the rankings from there as teams are eliminated from the playoffs. So April the 9th, don't forget to mark your calendars. You're going to want to watch the NHL Draft Lottery when we can finally reveal who's going to be picking near the top at the 2019 NHL Draft and who's going to have the honor of drafting a player like Kaapo Kakko and Jack Hughes. If you're new to the channel here, I hope you consider subscribing. We cover all 31 NHL teams, and there is plenty of content here for all hockey fans to enjoy. So if you're new, hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up before you go. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you very much for watching, everybody. We will catch you next time.